Hi, everybody. Welcome to our next episode with Dr. Francisco, and we wanted to talk about the PPG Stress Flow this time. Dr. Francisco, please give us a little bit of information about the different wires and everything that comes with the PPG, and give us a little bit overview of the technology.
Okay, so this technology is a plethysmographic analysis. That's a complicated name there. It means that it measures changes in volumes. In this case, blood. So you have the sensors in your different fingers, your left and then your right, and it's measuring changes in your blood flow, which then in turn is regulated by the way your heart is beating, which is then regulated by your autonomic nervous system. So I can tell you the state of your sympathetic and parasympathetic, the state of your autonomic nervous system as a whole, based on these readings here.
Very nice.
It can also tells me about capillary permeability, which has to do with inflammation. So if you have high capillary permeability, that means you have high inflammatory processes.
Is that the thickness of their blood vessels?
And the way that they go in and out of the vessels.
So once we have more cortisol that builds up into the capillaries, and they start to degrade the veins from the inside, and they eat away from the vein. So it gets to a point that the vein becomes so thin that there's some tiny little holes around it that the nutrients can get away from the vein and come, to the different areas and not really go to the
inflammation,
areas,
great chronic inflammation,
which is a sign of inflammation. So that's really important for us to be able to realize that.
And it tells me about circulation as well.
Okay. Can you tell us how you connect it? This is when they get the box, what comes with it? So that way they have a better understanding of their flow.
It's very straightforward. There is this cable that has a USB. So the USB connects to your computer.
Which is your regular printer cable that anybody can purchase those anywhere.
And then in the back of the device, you have the system over here, the location for this. It only connects one way because the cable is, designed that way. So it connects. That's it.
Okay.
And then this goes onto the computer, the USB. And then in the front, it says left L and R, left and right. And then here are the sensors. It goes on your left finger, on your right finger. And then they also only connect one specific way because of the design of the cable. So you go left, which is this, onto the left, very simple. And that's it. And then the right, same thing.
Just make sure the pens are matching correctly. So you don't want to pressure those to bend the pens. If you align them easily, it will fit in there.
Yeah.
Okay. So after we connected, now what do we do?
Then we get the patient, and then they put the right, you see there, it looks like a little finger with the nail over here up top. Then all you do is put your finger this way.
Okay.
Make sure that it fits, the same way as the other one with your patient, left and right. And then they shouldn't be resting their hands like this, because then that changes the flow of blood. So they should be either like this, right?
So hands flat on the table,
or on their lap.
On their lap.
Doing the reading, because it has to do again with blood flow. You can't be shaking your hands or doing anything. Actually, the best way to do it is because it only takes 5 minutes. So whenever you do an assessment, you don't even talk to the patient. Okay. Let them just breathe normally and stay there relaxed, and don't, keep talking to them or anything like that, because that can modulate your autonomic nervous system to more positive or more negative. So don't influence, just sit down, let them do there. And then it's only 5 minutes.
5 minutes to measure the information.
So that's it. Very simple.
Okay. So now on the screen, we have a sample test of somebody that has completed of the scan. Can you give us a little basic idea of what we're looking at on their screen? So
because these devices, they're also used by high-end universities as a research tool, right? They're class 2 medical devices. But we use them more in the health and wellness context.
Okay.
But because they are, like I said, medical devices, and they are used in research, they have a lot of different parameters.
Okay. So
some people look at it and they say, oh, do I need to learn all these parameters? Not really. You're not going to use all of that. What you need to know is on the top right corner, there is one of the assessments. It's over here. It's called ANS balance power. See, that is a very interesting one, because it tells me about the overall state of your autonomic nervous system.
Okay.
How is it adapt? Because imagine that this is our relationship with the environment. The first thing that changes in our physiology is, for your brain, is the autonomic nervous system. Like Dr. Porges that wrote a lot of books about that, right? How this is an interface with what is happening in the environment. This gives me the power of your autonomic nervous system to react to the situations from the outside.
Perfect.
So
And where should it be optimally?
the optimum, it says here, normal. So that's where it should be.
So in that purple box on the top,
The
that's
purple
should be
box, there is a little box here. Each one of these is there in a different evaluation. So it should be right here in the normal range. This top, right portion here that you
the
see,
darker paper, the darker purple
darker
color.
color, yes, that one was high-end athletes
Okay.
that they did a lot of tests to come up with this.
Wow.
So they got like high-end, like this company in Italy, they work with the military, special forces. They work with high-end athletes. They work with the Olympians in
Okay.
Italy. So they got these guys and then they assessed them and then that's where they landed. So probably we're never going to be that. We're just
Something to work towards.
we are below that. Most of the people actually are right in the middle here. They're not, in the normal range. They are already getting some low-grade inflammation. They have activation of the stress system that is continuous. They have all those things. If you fall under here, then you already have some chronic situations going on, right? On this, and then if you're in the yellow part, that means you're about to die. And I'm not kidding.
It's time to check out.
They went into people that are very close to, or just, and they did the assessments, and that's where it fell.
Wow.
So they know this is not based on the imagination. It's based on thousands of assessments of real individuals, right? So that's the first one. That's the most important, actually, because you want to know how the nervous system is reacting. If you want to go into let's go a little bit more in depth. Then you can look at this one here, which is the power spectral, density.
Power spectral density.
What does that mean? It means that the beats of your heart, they're modulated by the autonomic nervous system, right? Sympathetic and parasympathetic. And you can decompose the signal into the different spectrums, like very low frequencies, medium frequencies, and high frequencies. The high frequencies that appear, they have to do with your parasympathetic. So parasympathetic, I know the state of your parasympathetic. Generally, when you're assessing people, they should have higher sympathetic because they're awake. If you have very high parasympathetic, either you're in deep meditative stages or you're in the freezing mode that you can't react.
Okay.
Like a situation of stress, imagine you're like, it's so much that your cortisol probably is already flat low and then you can't even react anymore. Then you have peaks of parasympathetic. So the proper physiological response when you're awake would be more sympathetic. Right? And you can see the percentages here on the side. See, you have percentages, sympathetic and parasympathetic percentages. But represented here, you see that there is a little bit of parasympathetic in this case. There is a little bit of sympathetic, not a lot. And then there is a lot of VLF, which is very low frequency. Very low frequency is related to chronic activation of the stress system. It's like,
now, is the VLF, is that the combination of sympathetic and parasympathetic, or that's completely different?
No, it's a different frequency.
Frequency.
It's very low. It means your system is depleted. Okay. It's like you're running on fumes. And chronic activation of the stress system, you have high ranges in the VLF.
Okay.
And as you do your therapies and your treatment, you can show the person, look, this number is decreasing. You have the actual numbers here on the side as well, right? But what's more important, I think, is to look at the graphs and you see how the graph, decreasing over here, increasing over here, increasing your sympathetic, decreasing your very low frequency, and then how the person is moving towards a state of normalcy every time that you do the assessment, right? And this has to do with the circulation, blood flow, bilateral flow from the left hand in red and the right hand in blue, right? So you're seeing the differences over there. And then here you have the actual numbers. For that person, it should be at least 300. So you see that circulation is pretty good, right? Because it's 1,000. And then the relationship between one side and the other is good too. Sometimes when you have physiological impediments in one side, like surgeries or whatnot, then you see variations. Sometimes it's like very significant. One side has a lot more blood
lot
flow
more
than the
flow.
other one. And then over the next one is the capillary permeability one that I talked about. As you see that there is a curve, goes up, goes down, and then forms the diacritic notch over here, and then comes back down.
Okay.
This is the normal range. If you have something that goes all the way up and then comes down flat, that means very high capillary permeability.
Gotcha. So that means that the cortisol production has been going on for a while, and now it's degrading the system already.
Yeah. And then this one here is the scattergram. That's an interesting one. Each one of these little dots is a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
So you see that all the heartbeats are concentrated in one area. That means what? Low variability.
No HRV, right?
Yes, low HRV, because HRV means heart rate variability. The more it varies, the more adaptation you have. If everything is concentrated in one area, that means that heart rate variability is low.
Yes.
It should be at least spread over like 3 of these squares over here.
Okay.
Right? And that's not the case.
And with that, we can give the patient practices with their mobile phone and
it changes real time. When you do a respiratory biofeedback, in this case, you connect the person, you do a breathing exercise. When they're doing the breathing exercise, it changes completely, instantly.
Yeah, I've done it multiple times, and you can see like immediately after the person is
Yeah.
while they're doing it. As soon as they start changing the rhythm of the breath, you can immediately see the changes that are happening on their autonomic nervous system.
Now imagine if you do that exercise 4 times a day at home. Over time, it doesn't happen instantly. You're not going to change your physiology. It's going to change right there, right? As if you start running, you're going to increase your heartbeat, and then you stop running, and then it's going to go back to normal. So you do this, it's going to increase your variability, then it's going to go back to normal. Then you do it again, then again, then
And
again.
this has been the conversation
You're
I've
training.
had with a lot of people that they have low HRVs, and we want them to start working on it. So we give them apps, we give them different technologies to work with them. But they leave the office, they go home, and they forget about it. Like, they just
Yeah.
like, they don't have that way that's connecting them to want to keep on doing these exercises. But using this technology and giving them the wireless external finger piece that they can take home, because all of the information that they're doing, first of all, we're assigning the measurements or the breath works for them. And then we're able to see as soon as they do it, what is the values, how is it improving, if is it not. And this real-time feedback, it keeps people on their toes.
Yes.
And now when I'm using the system, like people that would never like do these kind of practices, they're repeating it like 3 times a day. And I'm seeing, big improvements in their health and wellness and their ANS health.
100%, because it's a positive loop. Like you're saying, look, this is instant gratification. You're like that, right? Like instantly you did your exercise, look at your numbers got better, and you see it. And then you do it again, and then you do it again. And over time, it's all in our hands, or in our breath.
And just talk really quick about the ANS control, so that we can have a more understanding of how we can work with that.
Yeah. So this device, is it in here? I think it's somewhere else. Yeah. It's similar to exactly like this, but you put it on your finger and you do it at home. Connects via Bluetooth with the app. The app gives you a unique number, because each one of my patients or your patients in your system has a unique number. Mm-hmm. So you can communicate directly with that one patient. It's not like this is never a one size fits all. It's very individualized.
Right.
So I do your assessments. I know what is the best exercise for you, depending on the assessments that I do. And then I send those to your phone via system. When you open your phone, there's going to be this is what you need to do today. And then you do it, you connect with the device, you do your respiratory biofeedback exercise. We can show it in another video real time.
Yes.
But you're breathing, and then it's telling you breathe, hold, exhale, breathe, hold, exhale. Through 5 minutes. Once you're done, it gives me the value of how much your vagus nerve was activated. It doesn't show to the patient all the parameters, because they don't need to know all of that. They just need to know it was activated enough or not. Is it in the red, in the yellow, or in the green? Was it good enough? It shows me in your phone. But you as a practitioner receive on your system immediately after they finish a real-time assessment of all the different parameters. So you know exactly what's happening with your patient.
And that's powerful. So with that said, I wanted to wrap up this video so we can move into
I
some other
remember one thing
technologies.
that I wanted to say
Please
that
share.
is very interesting.
Of
So
course.
the way that this is being used traditionally in Italy, especially in Italy, I mean, this technology has been there all these years. They do it. They have teams in Germany and in England. In the first time in the U.S. is us bringing it now, but the way that they do this is they have teams of sports, like I said, military, high-end executives that they track on a regular basis. They give them the exercises, they modulate their diet, they give them the respiratory biofeedback. They come to the office on a regular basis to do the assessments. They monitor everything through functional medicine, functional health and wellness, and then they keep progressing.
That's
So this is
amazing.
a package. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, and it gives so many opportunities to the practitioner to want to work with that system in all different ways.
100%.
And one thing that we haven't mentioned is about the record function in
Oh
the
yeah.
autonomic nervous system.
Yeah, that we do a lot for research.
Okay.
Like, as you know, like I'm a neuroscientist, I'm a researcher, professor of neurophysiology, and I do a lot of assessments with these devices for the different studies that we're conducting in universities in Brazil, in the US, in Italy, in India, internationally. And what is very interesting, there is one function in the software that's called a data recorder. So you can click and then it's assessing real time what's happening with your autonomic nervous system, real time. Once you're doing this, you can use different technologies or different, like a laser device, for instance, or different types of interventions or a massage there, and see how your autonomic nervous system reacts real time to
Real
those
time.
interventions. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that was very fascinating to do before after research, and seeing the effects, more on the physical body rather than just on the energy or emotional body.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Francisco, thank you so much. This is a very, very powerful technology. We can't wait for you guys to start playing around with these technologies. And I'm sure you're going to bring so much health and wellness to your communities and to your patients. So thank you again for introducing these
Thank
amazing
you.
technologies to us. We'll see you in the next video.